Hi everyone and welcome to season 8 and episode 3 of Behind Your Eyes. And the lovely Geraldine is my guest today. So hi Geraldine, if you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Geraldine and I'm a serene spiritual empowerment guide. So I support women who've had a difficult or harmful relationship with their mothers to rebuild their self-esteem, to learn to love themselves, to stop people pleasing, to really start trusting in themselves by I use serene spiritual hypnotherapy and coaching. So I explore spiritual principles with them, help them to really understand themselves better through those principles, get more compassion and love for themselves. But I also use the serene spiritual hypnotherapy to connect them with their spirit guides and their own inner divinity. And just the unconditional love that comes through is incredibly powerful and healing. So yeah, very, very passionate about what I do.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that more. But first, I always start with the same question, and that is a sincere, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Business is starting to pick up. I'm very passionate about helping women who've had a difficult relationship with their mum, because it tends to be something that's not talked about. It's a bit of a taboo subject. Like I get a lot of trolls for speaking openly and outwardly about this. And I know when I had to cut contact with my mum, and not everybody I work with, I would say that's necessary, but I had to. And it was a very, very lonely time. And there is so much stigma and not much understanding around it. So it's something I'm really passionate about, and things are picking up. People are starting to hear the message. It's getting through. I'm starting to reach people thanks to a lot of people like yourself who are willing to let me to come and talk on podcasts, and it's wonderful. There's a community building around the work that I do of women really who get it, who support each other, no judgment, no competition. I don't accept anybody. My mother's worse than your mother. It's not allowed. And just a lot of real support, cheering each other on, and acceptance of each other. And it's I'm really proud of what's happening around my work. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And when did you first start to notice that, okay, the relationship with my mom is not healthy for me, it's not good?
It took a long time. It took a long time because my mum wasn't physically abusive. She never starved me. She didn't neglect me. In fact, at times she could be very loving and very supportive and fun. However, I was her carer from being 12 years old, and she had physical needs, but she also had mental health needs. So I would be stopping her from harming herself and things like that. And it took its toll. But as I got older, I started to really suffer with anxiety. And I thought for years that it was the toll of that caring and the lack of outward support to help me. But once I trained in working with domestic violence victims, because I've been a probation officer, I've worked in substance misuse, and then I went on to support women in the emotional recovery of domestic violence. And when I trained in that, whilst also getting counselling for the anxiety, whilst also having my own children, it kind of took all three things to come together. Plus, I did have spiritual messages coming through saying something's not right. And I started to finally realise that anxiety was not due to being a carer. It was due to the real enmeshment of my relationship with her, of how manipulative she could be, how controlling, this weight of responsibility for her well-being that was being put on my shoulders. It was her physical well-being, her mental well-being, her financial well-being was all being put on me, and my needs were always coming last. And it took many years. I had kind of two major aha moments. One was when my counsellor just said to me, "Why are you not furious with her? You should be furious. Like, this is not a healthy relationship. This is not acceptable." And I just remember coming home and just sat in the middle of my lounge floor, and the room just span. Like, it just span around me, because my whole world flipped upside down. My understanding of the world, as does with most children and even into adults, comes filtered through your parents' perspective. And I was starting to see that her perspective of the world was very distorted. I believe she's covert narcissist or personality. She's not anything diagnosed, so I can't officially say anything like that. This is just my opinion. But I think she's very much in victimhood. The world is very much against her, and she lives very much in fear. And I took a lot of that on, that the world was against us, and it was an enmeshment, and it was my responsibility to keep her safe and protect her from all that, and to the detriment of myself. And it was starting to really affect my ability to parent well, because I just had so many mother wounds going on. And then a few years later, after I'd trained in domestic violence and was starting to really see that all those different forms of abuse that I was helping the women to understand that I was working through were actually really familiar. You know, the controlling, the even things like, she would share details of she'd been sexually abused when she was young, and she shared details with me when I was very young. And I had to kind of carry that for her. I was her confidant, her person to come to. And that's called parentification, and it's very damaging. And it wasn't until I started doing that work that I started to realize, but sadly, I lost that job. Everything went wrong at the charity, and I lost the job, and my anxiety skyrocketed. And I went back to the counsellor that I'd been working with on and off for a couple of years, and she could see again that a lot of it was not due to me losing the job. It was the weight of this relationship that was becoming increasingly harmful. It was getting worse. And she just said, what would life look like without her in it? And she was the first person to ever give me permission to even consider it. And at first, my initial response was, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. However, what she did say was, right, we need to put boundaries in place. You can't go on like this. You're breaking down. You can't keep going like this. So it was coming up to Christmas. I was going to have my mother-in-law coming to stay, because she hadn't come for a couple of years, and my mother coming to stay. I was mentally very unwell at the time, just couldn't even decide what to eat and what to wear. And the thought of having them both under my roof with my children over Christmas was just too much, because they didn't really get on. And so I thought, out of all of them, the one person I could say to, please don't come, I can't cope, would be my mum. However, when I said to her, please, I can't cope with it this Christmas, she had been to us the previous Christmas, my mother-in-law hadn't, so it seemed fair. The response I got was her screaming at me down the phone, absolutely screaming, accusing me of conspiring to make her stay with my maternal grandmother, who was spending Christmas alone. And it was all about her, and there was no consideration for my needs whatsoever. And do you know what? I'm really glad she did it, because it took that for me to go, oh, I'm never going to come first. I can't heal with this in my life. It was like swimming in poison. I needed to get away to be able to heal. So I made a very, very difficult decision to cut her off at that point. And I didn't allow her contact with my children either, because I could see that she was already starting to manipulate and cause problems with them. And I have a child who's autistic and has learning disabilities, so very vulnerable. And I talked to my husband, and he was just like, no, no, enough's enough. You know, he'd had enough, bless him. He was at breaking point. And so, just made the cut. I was very blessed that my family supported me. Even her own mother was very, very supportive and had my back. So a lot of women that I work with don't have that. So it takes. It's funny, I get a lot of trolling online saying, oh, people are just taking the easy option out and cutting people out. It is far from the easy option. It's incredibly hard to do, incredibly hard. And it sent me on this huge healing journey. My emotions were all over the place. I was up, down, roundabout. But I worked with the counsellor for a while, trained as a hypnotherapist, reconnected with my mediumship, really dived into learning about the three principles: Abraham Hicks, Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. You know, I dived headfirst into all this stuff. Was very lucky to have a coach to help me with the three principles side of things, and really start to find peace. And really reconnected with my spirit guides. I'd been developing my mediumship since I was 19. I was very lucky to have a very good spiritual teacher who gave me a foundation of real love. And just as I started doing my hypnotherapy, I felt spirit getting more and more involved. And that's when I developed my own serene spiritual way of working with hypnotherapy, where I bring your spirit guides forward. And it's their support, my spirit guide support, guidance, reassurance that I'm doing the right thing, that it was the right thing for me. And just their unconditional love always got my back. I just want other people to know that that's there for them too, that I'm not special. Mediums are not special. It's there for anyone. If you're highly sensitive, particularly most of the women I work with are deeply highly sensitive or empathic. It's only a tiny step to them be able to bring their spirit guides in too. And it's such a powerful, wonderful thing. And they've got me through so much, supported me through so much. I really want other women to feel that connection and support. And I think it's particularly important when you've got mother wounds, because if you've not had the one person in your life, I mean, I know father's supposed to be unconditional love, but this whole culture isn't around mums. Like you can say negative things about dad, but not about mum. Mum gave birth. Like there's this thing of, she gave birth to you, how can you say anything like that? And it's like, she gave birth to me, that means she commit to me, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And we're not perfect women. We're not. We get it wrong sometimes, and mothers get it wrong sometimes, and wounds are caused. I don't believe my mum did it on purpose. No, but wounds were caused, and it got to a point where it was so harmful I couldn't continue. But I do think that if you've not had that unconditional love, or that unconditional acceptance of you, or that safe space to go to be able to cry or to show your emotions, which I get such a varied, you know, different kind of mothers that have caused different kinds of harm with the kind of women that I work with. That unconditional love from your spirit guides, where the love they bring forward isn't an emotion, it's a state of being, and it's really pure, it's undiluted, it's raw, it's beautiful. To feel that really helps you then on your journey to loving yourself and realizing your power and your magnificence and your right to be peaceful, to have peace in your life and joy in your life. And they really will bring you back to that, because you always come first with them. You are their first priority. They're always for the greater good as well, but you are for their first priorities, particularly your spirit guides. Angels, they've got the world, but spirit guides are you.
Exactly.
So it's something I'm really passionate about.
I would like to take a few steps back, because I would love to know, like, a healing journey like that, especially with such trauma from a young age. Where do you start?
Well, when I work with people, I use what's called my Serene Way method, which is an acronym for serene. So it's stillness, emotions, reconnection, energy, the power of now, and empowerment. So I take them through that, and we always start with understanding. So really understanding all the different forms that abuse or harmful behavior. Don't always use the word abuse, because when it's in regards to mum, that's a really hard word to take. So we talk about harmful instead, or difficult behavior. And there's just so many different forms that it can take. So it's really good to get a good understanding of that. So I do a group online program, and the first module is all about that, is understanding where you've come from, what are the wounds that have been caused, and what can they look like, what can be the results of those wounds. So people pleasing, hyper independence, struggling to trust yourself or trust others, social anxiety, all these things. you know, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, feeling responsible for fixing everything for everybody. Really acknowledging that, and then we go through this serene process. And stillness is always the first. With anything I do with anyone, it's stillness. It's really knowing how you can get still and really reconnect with you, with your own inner divinity, how you can just be. And for some people, when you talk about stillness, they think I mean meditation. And yes, that's one way. But we talk about play, silliness, how that can help you get still, exercise, movement, doing things with your body. There is lots of different ways of getting still, but you need to get still first before you can do any of the other work. You've got to get still, and you've got to start developing those skills to get still. We go over it again later on when we're talking about being in the moment, but just that first introduction to getting still, because you need to find out who you are, not who you've been told you are.
And what would you advise women that are currently still in that situation with their mom?
Well, one, I would say come find my group. I have a free group in Facebook. Not because, yeah, come find me, I'm so good. It's not that. It's because you need to be with people who get it. Because a lot of the time when you, like, for example, if you went to somebody and listed all the things that a harmful mum has done, but didn't mention it was your mom, say it was a friend or a partner, people would just immediately be like, oh, you know, get rid, you don't deserve this, get rid. Then you say, but it's my mom. Oh, but you can't.
Yeah.
So it's really important to be in connection with other women, people. I mean, I mainly work with women, but there's men go through this issue too. And I do work with men one-to-one. But be around people who understand that. Connect with people who get it. There are other people who do similar work to me. Find the ones that work for you. You know, but be in those communities, but be aware of, when I first cut contact with my mum, I did go into some daughters of narcissistic mothers type of groups. But what I found was they were very much in the past, going over and over everything that had happened to them, which is not healthy. Or they were competing over whose mum was worse. Really not helpful. So I didn't always find that it was useful for a little bit, because I needed to be angry for a little bit. The anger was what enabled me to really take care of myself. But you can't stay there. You need to keep moving up those scales of vibration, and anger is useful for a short time, but you got to move out of it. So it's finding a community that gets that, you know, that allows you to express the anger, but it's more about the moving forward from it.
The forward perspective.
Yeah, because I mean, within our group, sometimes there'll be one coming in and going, "Oh, I could have just smothered my mother with a pillow today," and it's the kind of community where we just laugh and we hold that space, and then we help them move on from it. It's not where we just vilify mothers in any way. It's not about blaming anyone with this. It's about, okay, this stuff happened to you. We're acknowledging it. We're sorry it happened, but now it's your responsibility to heal the wounds. It wasn't your fault, but the wounds are yours to heal. So it's finding a community that will support you with that. Find the people, you know, read the books. I start exploring this stuff and finding out where the support is. And be aware of those people who aren't supportive of it. Because sometimes family, you know, some people don't get it and can't see your perspective. So make sure you're connecting with people who do.
And you also mentioned your connection with spirit guides has been such a huge strength for you. Could you advise women who are watching this how to do that connection, how to make that connection?
Yeah, so I teach a method because I have a development course that I teach, and I teach a method called SAT. So it's stillness, allowing, and trust. So everything I teach starts with stillness because it's the most important point. But then it's about being able to get still. Then it's allowing, giving them permission to connect with you, because if they don't have permission, they can't do anything. One of the greatest spiritual principles, laws, is free will. And if we don't want them or don't give them permission to intervene, they can't. There's very rare occasions when certain, you know, if there's possible that you could end up hurting yourself or killing yourself before your time, angels can step in, but really need your permission. And then it's about trusting what you get through. So one of the ways that I always, if you're really just getting started and you just want to feel them, the best way to do that is through the energy of love, because love is the energy that runs through everything. That source energy, that divine intelligence that tells the sun how to move around the earth, the grass to grow, all that runs through you too. And it's love. That's what that energy is. It's love.
Yeah.
And the way to connect with it is to really feel love. So I always get my clients to just close their eyes and think about something they love, like really deeply love. Could be your puppy, your child, a baby, a good friend. It could be a favorite pair of shoes if you're that passionate about your shoes, but something you deeply, truly love. But what we're not focusing on is them. We're focusing on that feeling. So once you've got that feeling of love in you, then focus on where you feel it in your body, which usually is around the heart chakra.
Yeah.
And then really focus your mind there, focus your energy there, and then ask. Just ask them to show you some kind of sign that they're there. And it can come across as a sound, a sensation on your body, an image popping in your mind. It may be that it comes a little later. There's a synchronicity that will suddenly happen in that day. It may be a poem, or you're just listening to a song and a certain lyric will stand out. It can be anything, but it's key then when you do get it, don't question it, just say thank you.
Yeah, that's the easy thing to do. Like, oh, I'm sure it's nothing. Oh, I'm sure this butterfly just landed on my hand. A coincidence.
Yeah, there's always the, can I have a signier sign, please?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And I've been guilty of that. But
yeah, and it's like, this wasn't the sign I was asking for. I need a very clear sign.
No, I need a really clear sign. It was funny actually. Once I was walking with my kids and the dog and my husband, and there was little white feathers everywhere, and I'm going, yeah, but is this just, there's a bird that's just shed lots of feathers. So I said to them, right, okay, I want a signier sign. I want a really clear feather. And when I came home, we'd been clearing our flower beds out just in front of the house, literally just before we went on the walk. And when we came back, there was one white feather just sat on the flower beds. And I was like, cheers. I don't always get that clearly, but that was, that was fun. Yeah.
And it's so lovely that you say that when you communicate with your spirit guides, it comes from a place of love, because I literally just wrote down before this interview, like, to me, when I communicate with my spirit guides, it feels like an act of self-love.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is an act of self-love. And that's it. The women that I work with that have the most impact are the ones who do my Serene Way and do this development course that I do, because the Serene Way is like a 7-month program, or you can work with me one-to-one and it's much shorter. And then the development course is just 4 weeks, but it's just I show you how I work with oracle cards and dowsing crystals, and then just get you to start sharing messages from your spirit guides with the other members of the group. And within 4 weeks, you're doing it without any cards, or you're just getting into a meditation and it comes. But when you do both, when you've got that real work on yourself and then you do the work on the connection with your spirit guides, it really is, it's so powerful, because they really show you how to love yourself.
Yeah,
and
it feels like the biggest supporters.
Yeah, it's like you can't get bigger cheerleaders. Like, if I work with quite a lot of people who run their own businesses, and it's just like, well, if you want a business coach, they're the best you've got, because they know what's in alignment with you. They know, and you've got to really trust them. Sometimes I get an inspiration to do something and I'm like, you sure? Okay, I'll do it. And they've never let me down. And like, before I do any hypnotherapy with anyone, I always plug in and just see what guidance comes through. And there's been some cases I think, I'm not sure where I'm going with this one, and they always show me where to go, and they've never let me down, ever. And it's like having your own little guidance system.
Yeah.
But it's realizing that if you are in a state of despair, deep anger, resentment, or anxiety, it will be harder to connect, because that means you're on a very low vibration. So
Yeah.
I always say to people, when you're in that, it's like looking through black clouds. You can't see
Yeah.
clearly. So don't try and fix anything,
Yeah.
because
Just let it be.
you'll make a mistake. You'll make a mistake. Something like, sending your car into a mechanic and turning all the lights off and say, fix the car.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So instead, I always say, don't try and fix anything, because you're not seeing it all clearly right now anyway. You can tell your body is telling you with the way you're feeling, you can't trust your perception of stuff right now. So instead, just focus on, how can I lift my vibration? And I don't mean think positively, I mean next step. How can you give yourself a sense of relief? And it can be tiny steps. Like if you're in deep despair, anger is the next step.
Yeah.
Whatever that next step is for you, just start lifting your vibration. And I always say, do it. I was listening to a really wonderful psychologist in America called Dr. Stutz, and he always says, do something to enhance your life force. So either connect socially with like a friend or a good somebody you can really talk to, do something for your body, go for a walk, get some exercise, get into nature, always amazing. Or do something for your mind, meditate, give yourself that stillness. Or for me, quite often it's things like crafting, so you can just allow your mind to still, and that can start giving you some clarity. So again, that would be great advice for anyone who is stuck in that relationship with them. I'm not sure what to do. What's the next step? You actually know what the next step is, but while your vibration is low, you won't be able to see it. So instead of trying to fix that relationship or fix the situation, focus on yourself, getting your vibration higher, and then it will become clearer, or you will suddenly get inspiration to connect with certain people or do certain activity, and it'll come clear.
And besides connecting with your spirit guides, what are some other ways of self-care and self-love that you practice often?
Well, like I said, always nature. Always getting in nature, walking in nature. And a really simple tool I tell everybody I work with, when you get out to nature, look up. It's something we do all the time. We do it way too much these days. We're looking down at phones, we're looking down at computers, and it's not good for your nervous system. When you get outside and you look up, it allows your mind to shift into awe, wonder, gratitude, connection. It gets you out of that feeling of being isolated. It stops you thinking about the past or the future. It brings you into the present, and it makes you feel that oneness. Look up is a really simple one, but it works. It works really well. I am a big advocate of meditation, but also when I say that, there is lots of different ways for you to do it. Like I do ecstatic dance, which is sober, free form dancing. And that, you don't talk when you're doing ecstatic dance. And that allows me to meditate without having to sit still, because I'm not very good at sitting still and making my mind still. My husband does it through gardening. It's finding what are those things for you that allow your mind to quieten, allow you to stop over identifying with that mind and get some distance from it, not reject it, because it's a part of you. You need to love it, but you don't have to believe it. So it's allowing you to just get some distance from it and really reconnect with your own inner divinity. Whatever can help you to really realize you are a divine being. And all the difficulties that you're going through are actually gifts wrapped in sandpaper. You can start focusing on the gift. What's the learning here? And not focus on the sandpaper. Things start to get easier.
Things start to shift. For sure. Well, my last question is also always the same, and that is, when are you at your happiest?
Me, when am I at my happy? I do love ecstatic dance. That makes me very happy. Festivals, music festivals, just being able to dance with friends, singing and dancing. And other times it's just cuddling my kids. You just can't beat a good cuddle, or when they're giggling at something, just watching them giggle. Or, I mean, they're at the age now. One's my child that's got special needs is 13, and my youngest is 10. So hormones are kicking in. These moments are getting harder, but so it becomes even more precious when you get a really good cuddle and you get that real connection. Yeah, that makes me really happy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this interview, Geraldine. It was a joy to talk to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.